All right. Here, let me make sure this is recording. All right. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So, this is not lantern control. This will be my first non-lantern video in a very, very long time. But I started brainstorming this deck earlier today on the MTG Salvation IRC channel with a few people. And so I'll do this real quick, and then I want to talk about the deck a little bit. So, well, actually, I guess I'll show the deck first. See, deck editor, load deck, Madcap. All right, so essentially, you've probably already seen it. It's the Madcap experiment. The reveal top cards of your library until you get an artifact, put it on the battlefield, the rest go on the bottom, and then you take damage equal to the number of cards revealed. And what I do is I put 2 Platinum Empyrean in the deck, only artifacts in the deck. So you're going to get an 8/8 for 4 mana. That makes it so it basically acts like an ensnaring bridge. If the opponent can't get rid of it, you probably don't die unless they maybe have like infect or mill, which it's not as common as you might think. And it is an 8/8 beater. So what I did is I figured I wanted to play black. Well, because of the discard. Where's it at? Inquisition and Thoughtseize. 3 and 3. I do 3 and 3 in Lantern. I tried 3 and 3 here just to try it out. That way I can make sure that the Madcap goes off. Serum Visions, of course, set it up. It's kind of good. See Beyond, Draw Engine, and it's good if I get a Platinum Empyrean in my hand. I could probably go down to 1, but right now I'm running 2 just in case. Vendilion Click, because it is a 3/1 beater. The whole point is to get Platinum Empyrean into play and not necessarily attack with it. I mean, attacking would be nice, but I'm kind of afraid that somebody might block and then like bolt or something like that to take it out. The point is to just keep it in play. So if they don't have a blocker, fine. But really is to win with like Vendilion Clicks and Bolt, Snap, Bolt, and so on. Ooh, I got a message. Okay. Oh no, there we go. All right. And then of course Snapcaster, so it's kind of good. It helps make sure we can get double value off our Inquisitions. It helps set up for Serum Visions a little bit more, but really in case something goes wrong and like our Madcap doesn't, it gets countered or discarded or whatever, so we can still snap it back. Or it's basically an all-around helps out with everything. Of course, Lightning Bolt. I did 3 Cryptic commands because Cryptics will let us do an Alpha Strike by tapping down their blockers with Platinum, and it helps counter anything that tries to target Platinum, our Imperium. Notice Vendilion Click also allows us to tuck our Platinum Imperiums back into the deck if we draw it. And I don't think it'll happen that often that we need to do that, but it's possible. Really, I like because it's a 3/1 evasive beater with flash that disrupts and lets us make sure that Empyrean comes into play, stays in play. Dark Dwellers, simply because the Menace 4/4 body is really important, but it's kind of good because the Lightning Bolts, See Beyond to draw more cards, Inquisitions, and Thoughtseize and Serum Visions. That's probably one of the weakest cards in the deck, but it is a 4/4 Menace body, and that's one of the reasons why I included it. The rest of it is just kind of gravy. It's kind of good. I could probably, but like I said, I could probably replace this. Notice there's only 3 fetch lands in this because Platinum Empyrean shuts off fetch lands for me. If I have it in play, then fetch lands become a dead draw, and I cannot have that. So only 3 fetch lands. I got a few shocks, but shocks end up becoming those old crappy tap lands. 2 Creeping Tar Pits because 3/2 evasive beater. Again, all we're trying to do is get Empyrean in play and then hit with the clock, or hit with clicks and pits until the opponent is dead, and bolts. Bolt, snap, bolt if we have to. Desolate Lighthouse, make sure that we keep drawing into more threats as we go on. 2 Islands, just because, what if the opponent plays Blood Moon? It'll shut off our Vendilion Clicks. It will shut off our Cryptics as well, but, it's something I'm willing to risk, I guess. And the rest is just trying to keep the mana base somewhat steady without requiring fetch lands. For the sideboard, one of the first feedback that I got on this deck was, okay, what about decks? All they're going to do is side in hate for Platinum Empyrean. Right? Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Karanos. Helps make sure that we keep drawing into stuff, and it does get turned on into a creature thanks to Dark Dwellers, Vendilion Clicks, and Snapcasters, and Karanos itself. And keep drawing stuff, and it's a pretty good beater. But anyways, yeah, one of the first reactions I got was, what if they get removal for Empyrean? Then we're in trouble. Game 2 and Game 3, they're just going to play artifact removal and we lose. So I thought about it, and I realized, well, you could just side out those 6 cards, and you would have Grixis control. And while they have a whole bunch of dead cards, like, what if Burn decides to side in Destructive Revelry? Well, now they got, Destructive Revelries or Abrupt Decays or whatever that do nothing. They're just sitting in their hand. And I can only imagine, like a Game 2 where the opponent keeps a Revelry and a bunch of other stuff in the hand, you Inquisition, and then you don't pick the Revelry. Like, the reaction they might have, like, oh crap. But, so yeah, Kalitas, because, it's a good 3/4 beater, and it's got lifelink, so it's kind of good against Burn. Ceremonious Rejection, again, in this game I'm about to show, it was amazing. It was great. I played against Tron, and it felt like I basically locked him out of the game thanks to this and Snapcasters almost. Dispel, it's more protection for decks where it's safe to keep the platinum combo into play, or in the deck Game 2 and Game 3, and we can just protect it. I don't know. I might be able to replace those. Kolaghan's Command, a transformational sideboard again. Surgical Extraction, great against Tron. It's great against Ad Nauseam. Helps us with like when we discard surgical their stuff, or surgical their removal, so platinum actually works. There's a lot of uses for it. Anger of the Gods and Pyroclasm and Collective Brutality are basically to keep us alive until we get the combo into play, working out, or even if we side it out, it's still good. They're still good for us, and it's just good sideboard material for Grixis control. So that's my initial deck that I started working with, and I'll do a replay. Okay, here we go. Here, I'm gonna fast forward it again. Yeah, I tried to play it before, but my cockatrice, it crashed. Oh, here, let me do this so you can actually read it. And again, my opponent's on Tron. Rough Game 1. It feels nearly unwinnable Game 1. I had to mulligan as well. So I had the experiment, thought seized. I knew Dispel was going to be crap, and I had Snapcaster. So I was basically all in on hopefully Madcap. Thought seized Madcap, and then win real quick with bolts and maybe 2 swings if I'm lucky. But I realized as soon as I drew this, I was like, this is going to be a crappy matchup. I grabbed the Stirrings to slow down my opponent's clock, because I want to Madcap and then swing, and I don't want my opponent to get a Karn or a Oblivion Stone. If I can just keep my opponent off Karns or Oblivion Stones, I'd be okay. But that didn't happen. Yeah, here I Vendilion Click on my opponent's draw phase, take away the Stirrings, and if I'm not mistaken, my opponent draws into Oblivion Stone. I was like, crap, man, you gotta be kidding me. But that's the way it goes. So my plan here was just maybe I can Vendilion Click, lure out my opponent popping the stone by getting them down in damage, and then maybe Madcap the Empyrean into play. Yeah, so it's still pretty rough. I wasn't sure if I was going to do the Steam Winds untapped. I didn't think I had to, but I wanted to think about it before I. So my clock isn't very fast. My opponent can pop the stone anytime here, and draws another stone. So it's not looking good game 1. I got a tar pit, but my opponent can just ghost quarter that away, and that was poopy. I had to remind my opponent their Ghost Quarter was in the graveyard. So there's a Karn. So this is getting worse and worse. I didn't know my opponent had this other stone until right then as well. So here I was hoping maybe I can Madcap and get my opponent... Well, no, I think I Bolt Snap Bolt against Karn, hoping my opponent would Oblivion Stone so I can Madcap. I think that's what I did. No, I Madcap first. I probably should have Bolt Snap Bolt first. That was probably the wrong play. Yeah, there goes Platinum Empyrean. So that was probably a misplay on my behalf. Yeah, Inquisition. See a bunch of land. It's like, oh crap. So now I'm just all in on Bolt Snap Bolt. Again, I'm hoping to just top deck something. Yeah, opponent draws the Ugin, and yeah, there's no way I'm coming back. So maybe if I had Bolt Snap Bolt against Karn, then my opponent might have popped the Oblivion Stone, maybe, if I was lucky. And then I could have Platinum Empyrean, and I would have been okay. Because, what's his name? Ugin wouldn't have been able to stop it. So that was probably my mistake game one. I probably should have done that. Oh, crap. Okay, here we go. So game two. Much better. Okay, so I side in Ceremonious Rejections, 3 of them, and 3 Surgical Extractions. Opponent sides in Spellskite, dead card against me. And Ugin, I can stop that. So I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I didn't know their hand, but when I did... Oh, wait. Yeah, here we go. Oh, crap. Stupid. Oh, no. Oh, what'd I do? Oh, God. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I Serum Visions, and I saw a Ceremonious Rejection and a land on top. So I kept the Ceremonious Rejection on top. Kept my mana open for the Ceremonious Rejection. I thought Seize, and so I see all this. Needle does, like, yeah, it stops, whatchamacallit, what was the name of that card? Creeping Tar Pit, which sucked. Oh well. Spellskite does nothing to me, so nothing really hurts me except for Ugin here. And I was like, well, okay. So I don't, well, actually, I Worm Coil. So what I did here is I picked Worm Coil so that I can make my opponent build. Basically, I chose the cheapest threat my opponent had to counter it, and so I can wait until my opponent was forced to build up mana to play the more expensive threat, and then I can just easily counter it. It buys me more time, basically. It's like when I play against Burn with Lantern. I always pick the least expense. If all of them are, you know, basically the same threat, like I don't know, Skullcrack and Lightning Bolt, I'm going to pick Lightning Bolt because it costs less, and it forces my opponent into playing the more expensive stuff. So right now everything's okay. None of this that my opponent is playing matters, and I'm okay with that. I'm just basically buying time. Oh yeah, my wife needed me, so I had to pause real quick. So there's a spell scout. I probably should have bolted there in response, but whatever. Yeah, Ceremonious Rejection. And yeah, so things are good. There's a Surgical, which I'm super happy about. I think I asked my opponent to pause on the draw phase so I can Surgical the Ugins. Yeah. So I Surgical all my opponent's Ugins. There we go. So here's this library. There's Ulamog. Relic doesn't do squat to me. 2 Oblivion Stones, 1 Ulamog. So 1, 2, 3. 2 World Breakers, so 4, 5. And then 3 Karns, 6, 7, 8. Those are really the biggest threats. Nature's Claim, fine, whatever. Kill my artifact. I don't care. But you know what? Nature's Claim doesn't kill Vendilion Click. are Goblin Dark Dwellers, which is what I really want to do here. I would just want to counter everything at this point. It'd be cool if I get the combo off, whatever, but I just need to kill my opponent with tempo. And I'm about to extract that other Yugen right there. There is the possibility... oh, Warping Well, I didn't see that. Yeah, that would have been nice for my opponent, but whatever. Again, I can just counter it with Ceremonious Rejection. Like almost all of my opponent's threats, I can just counter it with Ceremonious and Surgical Extraction them. So it ends up being kind of what I do here. Yeah. I think I make a mistake here as well. Yeah, opponent's doing all sorts of stuff here. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I click at the end of my opponent's turn. I see a bunch of crap and I let him keep it. And now I have a threat on board. I have a clock. And so now all I got to do is, I got Ceremonious Rejection, I got another Surgical, so I'm doing okay. And, you know, I got Goblin Dark Dwellers. I'm hoping to draw another Snapcaster. There's a Desolate Lighthouse. That Lightning Bolt is a dead card in my hand, so... opponent draws World Breaker, and I think he should have tried to exile that. Instead, he exiled Desolate Lighthouse. Yeah, asked me if it was okay, and I was like, well, what's your target for the exile first? Because that happens even if I counter it. And so in response, I cycle away that Lightning Bolt, since it's a dead card. And I get a Snapcaster. Woohoo! So that Snapcaster is yet another Ceremonious Rejection for me. And that's 3 more damage. Now, my opponent could have returned World Breaker here, but I had Surgical. So I could have just Surgicaled in response, and my opponent... I mean, they could have, like, triggered it many times, like, a few times with all this land. But I was just waiting, so I could Surgical, and if they tried it again, I could Snapcaster Surgical. But chances are I wouldn't have. I would have, like, tried to Surgical, made him do it again. Then when he casts it, Snapcaster and Ceremonious Rejection again. Yep. There's an Oblivion Stone. So I Snapcaster, Ceremonious Rejection that. And again, my opponent, I think, should try to do this right here where they sacrifice a land to get them back to their hand. But I'll go ahead and get another land. I could have played like Karanos here, but I didn't, or Goblin Dark Dwellers, but I did not want to. Not quite yet. I mean, really, I guess what I could have done is Dark Dwellers and Surgical, like, Oblivion Stone. And that way I had, like, plenty of threats. I would have, I mean, that's 7 right there. And opponent couldn't block any of them. They would have, my opponent, but if my opponent would have drawn into a Yugen, I would, well, no, there is no Yugen in the library. And there would have been no Oblivion Stone. Yeah, that would have been okay, I think. But I wanted to keep up mana for that Cryptic. Because, I mean, I have the threats on board. If I just use the Cryptic, I should be okay anyways. So, yeah, opponent blocks. I attack with Snapcaster anyways, just to make my opponent block and think about it. So there's a Kozilek's Return, and dot tech that. So what I did is I Cryptic that, tap down Spellskite. And again, I think what my opponent should have done here was tried to get back World Breaker. I mean, I would have Surgicaled in response, but it's still something, you know? And then they could have World Breakered, like, I don't know, Vendilion Click or something. And then, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do a whole lot. I would have had to, like, Karanos or Goblin Dark Dwellers my way to victory from there. I mean, I would have taken some damage, but either way, like, it just felt ridiculously powerful with the Ceremonious Rejection, Surgical Extraction, Snapcaster against Tron. It felt broken. But yeah, this is a deck that I wanted to test out, and it seems pretty freaking good. I mean, I didn't even get the Platinum Empyrean thing going in that time, which also would have been good. So, I don't know. It was pretty cool. Hope you all enjoyed this non-lantern video. All right.